My name is Jennifer Passy. I am 45 years old and I am the mother of Nathan Passy. Nathan will be turning 17 soon, so he's 16 years old, almost 17, and he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when he was 13 months old. That is a little unusual and it's pretty early for a diagnosis. But there was some family history of autism, and so we were kind of watching for things. And when he was approaching a year old, he had all the fine motor skills and gross motor skills, and sometimes that's something that is a red flag for autism, but it was his communication things. Things that pediatricians look for are, social and language, pre-social and language skills, like babies learn to wave bye-bye, or they clap their hands and bring their hands together, and there were things that he was just not doing, and so he was able to be diagnosed at 13 months old, and by 14 months old he began therapy at home. He started off with what is primarily called ABA therapy, and he had a therapist that would come into the home and work on language skills and communication, would keep an eye on fine motor and gross motor skills, and mostly just trying to develop his language and communication, because that was the biggest deficit and severest delays that we saw. And then of course, that lasted for a couple years. And then when he turned 3 years old is when they can enter the public school system for therapy. And he went to a preschool that was designed for special needs. And there he was able to get the speech services and occupational therapy services through the school. At that time, we also, through our private insurance, continued speech therapy just to augment what the school was offering. And then he's been in the public school system since then and had access to that. But we have continued with, he had years of behavioral therapy while he was also in school, and that was at home. But funded through the state. We were living in Southern California at the time. And then right now, after moving to Arizona, he, in addition to the services he gets at school, he gets private speech at home once a week. I've noticed as I've been a part of this autism community for almost 16, 17 years now, that it seems to me there's two ways this kind of happens, the ways it goes down. And one way is that you have a typically developing child and then something stops or they regress and you start noticing changes. That was not the case for Nathan. For Nathan, he just never developed those skills. And it's interesting, and I've thought about that, and I think it's hard for any parent, no matter what happens when your child has a disability and extraordinary challenges. But I really do feel for those parents who go through, it's a grieving process no matter what. I actually went through a grieving process when Nathan got his diagnosis. But I can only imagine how much more difficult it is for parents who see their child on the path for which every parent envisions for their child, and then to see that taken away, I think would be particularly painful. In Nathan's case, he just never developed those skills, and so we knew something was going on. I think sometimes there's things that are very similar, and my life is the same as any parent. I worry about their safety and their health and his happiness and his friends, and there are so many things that are the same. And at the same time, there are so many ways it's really different. I've noticed that there's just a higher level of stress on a daily basis because of the extra challenges that come in the way. I noticed when Nathan was little, like a toddler, he didn't have the safety skills. I mean, still at 16 years old, he has the safety skills of about a 2 or 3 year old. At a 2 or 3 year old, he didn't even have that. So I could take him to the playground and I would watch as other parents could sit on a bench and watch their children play. And I never had that experience because I had to stand right next to him because I didn't know what he would do. I didn't know how he would interact with another child, especially as he got bigger than some of the other kids at the park, that he could hurt them without really knowing what he was doing. There'd be drop-offs where other kids would grab a pole and slide down or climb down a structure, and he would go to just step right off of a 8-foot drop, not really thinking about what could happen to him. So while some parents could sit on the side and the mom groups were chatting and having fun and their kids were off playing and that was a break for them, for me going to the park was a workout because all I did was follow him around to ensure his safety and the safety of others. So when we were young, that was one difference. As he's gotten older, the challenges have just become, the kid's bigger, the challenges are bigger. And we still worry primarily about his safety and the safety of others. Nathan has challenges with aggression, and sometimes when he's frustrated or things don't go right, he can act out, much like a 2-year-old might throw a tantrum. It's a lot different when a 17-year-old throws a tantrum. It's a bigger tantrum and a little more dangerous. And there's been times when we've been out in public and something happens and he behaves in a way that is not only dangerous, but it's destructive and humiliating and scary. And I think that's sometimes things that people from the outside don't really have to deal with when they're taking their teenager to the doctor and they're not looking around to see where the breakable things are and things like that, and constantly being on guard. So once I leave, our home is our sanctuary, and as soon as I step outside its walls, I am constantly every second on guard because I just don't know what's going to happen and how people are going to react to us or how Nathan's going to react to his environment. So I think just that level of anxiety is so much higher on a minute-to-minute, day-to-day basis than the average parent. Nathan has a lot of fun interests because it's funny because he's a teenager and he's also a little kid, and I feel like I have a kid who is at every age. I get all the fun of it and all the hard parts of those ages too. Nathan is very athletic, but because of his inability to really participate in team sports, he's pretty limited. But I hear he's amazing at badminton. He's like a pro badminton player. I wish I was, because then I could probably play with him, but that doesn't really work out so well. I would say Nathan's all-time favorite thing to do is draw. He's an artist and a crafter, and he can spend hours in his room drawing, and his room is often it's like an art gallery that changes every week. So he'll draw and draw and draw, and then he plasters it on the ceiling, on the walls, in his closet, in his doors. And he loves to just we try to keep it to his room. Sometimes it leaks out into the rest of the house. But he loves drawing, and we'll spend hours doing that and put it up everywhere. Hey Nathan, what is it?
Airplane, Special Olympics, church, birthday, school, Special Olympics, church, airplane.
Is that what you want to do? He also loves water, anything water, the pool, the beach, parks, stuff like that. He loves that. Something he really enjoys at school is his high school has a wonderful outreach programs for disabilities, and he's got his class there, but they have Best Buddies, and they also have United Sound. And for the last 2 years, Nathan has been learning to play the trumpet. He loves music and he loves figuring things out, and he's been really enjoying playing the trumpet. And I'm glad that he has the opportunity to explore those kinds of interests, because kids and teachers will volunteer their time for that. I think one of the most important things to know about Nathan and any child with a disability is that he's a person. And he's a person just like anybody else is a person, and has value and worth and is loved as much as anybody is loved. And he deserves to be valued and not passed over. So I appreciate those who can see that in him, and that he's a fun-loving, he comes with a personality, absolutely. He's got a big one. And I think as a parent, that's the most important thing to me, that people see, or at least try to see, who he really is. And he's not a diagnosis. He's a wonderful human being. I think things have come a long way in a while over the years, and I think something that's important for the community is just awareness. That goes a long ways, and sometimes that's just availability of programs and exposure. I've noticed what a difference it's made when the schools that we have here integrate the kids into their classes and into the school, instead of shuttling them off somewhere or they're a problem to be set aside. But when kids are given the opportunity to serve them, help them, and be their friends, it is amazing the difference and the understanding that they have. I think whenever there's community resources, clubs, we've been part of Special Olympics for a couple years. It's just the opportunity for Nathan to participate in things where he can't in regular circumstances. And so it's really wonderful when the community provides programs, whether it's the community or also the school providing programs like Best Buddies and United Sound, where he has the opportunity to interact with others and have friends and have fun. And the more exposure I find that people have, the more they learn that it's okay. It's okay that he's different, and it's not something to be afraid of. It's something that can be fun and enjoyed, and that's something I really value.